talk about like stressed, depressed, and lonely, and we wonder like why kids are feeling that at astronomical levels right now. And it's
Mm.
because they've attached themselves to their phone and not to each other. And this is the trend that I'm sort of seeing right now, is that a lot of high schoolers are acting as if they're in middle school.
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance based private therapy practice and a multi six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Going in network with insurance can be tough. For example, waiting a year to get credentialed in some cases. Filing all the right paperwork is time consuming and tedious, and even after you're done, it could take months to get credentialed and start seeing clients. That's why Alma makes it easy and financially rewarding to accept insurance. When you join the insurance program, you can get credentialed within 45 days and access to enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and they guarantee payment within 2 weeks of each appointment. Once you've joined Alma's insurance program, you can see clients in your state of licensure regardless of where you're working from. This is particularly exciting for me as a traveling therapist, as I know it is probably for you too. You can literally be anywhere and still see your clients through Alma. Learn more about building a thriving private practice with Alma at helloalma.com/Kim. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. I'm so excited today to have Jake Ernst. Am I saying it right? Ernst? Is that how you pronounce it? Jake Ernst. He's the coolest guy. You guys are going to love this episode. So I met Jake in Costa Rica, actually. He was one of the speakers at the Costa Rica retreat/summit that we went to. And he was one of the speakers. And I just fell in love with him there. We had so much fun. Actually, first kind of talked to each other. We were out on the catamaran in the middle of what was that? The bay, Jake, there, I guess? Or the
Yes.
ocean? I don't know
Yeah,
what
we
it
did.
was.
We did. We had a good old time on that boat. That's for
We had a
sure.
good old time. Okay, there was tequila involved.
Yes, there
There
was.
was a water slide. There was snorkels and dancing, like a huge dance party. So we had really a good time on this catamaran.
It was a party. It was a party, and we had such a great time. And that's how I got to know you really well, Kim. Yeah.
Yes, you really got to know me. Tequila Kim.
And you me. And you me.
Exactly. Yeah, so we had a great time and we got to kind of hang out all week and get to know each other a little bit better. But when I was there, he did this amazing talk about the teens, adolescents that he works with and social media and how it's impacting them and their social lives, and just how it's a whole different culture now with the social media, and also the damage kind of that it's doing to our young children. So I said, Jake, I would love to have you come on the podcast and talk to a traveling therapist about this, like, social media, what would we call it? Epidemic or something? I don't know what you
Yeah,
would
I mean,
refer to it as, but yeah,
I,
go ahead.
I I think there's many different ways to talk about it. If we zoom out for a second, I'm on social media. I use social media for my business, my practice, for all of that good stuff. And I think that we can hold space for two conversations at once. I think we're that evolved that we can
Yeah.
have a moment for how great social media can be and how the positives and connective elements of that. And I think that there are some very important risks that we cannot turn away from. And so I would call it a crisis of connection, I think is what kids are experiencing right now.
Mm,
I think unfortunately social media has promised this connective element, but it is causing major forms of concern and disconnection among young people. And I think, quite frankly, that is rippling into people older than young, adolescents, right? I think that we all feel that crisis of connection.
oh my gosh. Yeah, it is such like
necessary evil for me anyway, with the business and, everything's related to being online and it's constant. I was talking to, our friend Megan Gunnell the other day about this. It's like we run these businesses online and we're always checking things. We're always scrolling in Facebook and Instagram and answering messages. And it's like, there's no off button at all, And then after I saw your presentation around like the pleasure center of the brain and how it affects, the addictive parts of our brains, even, I just found that so interesting. I wanted to bring you on to say, like, how do we unplug from this? First, let's, talk about the damage it's causing, but how do we unplug, especially as a traveling therapist? It's like, I can be in the most beautiful place and I'm locked in, like right now, I'm at a beach, I'm locked in a library, like doing work stuff on the computer all day, So it's like, maybe we could talk a little bit about that too. Like, how do we like intentionally unplug from this stuff and feel okay about it too, like when we're running businesses and social media channels and all that.
I love the question, and I think it presents such a dilemma for us all that I think the number one thing that I would say is that these things are designed to be addictive. This is how these companies make money. They glue our eyeballs to the screen, and then unfortunately that keeps us there for quite a long time, doesn't it? And I would also say that gone are the days of the quote unquote work-life balance. I don't think that exists. I don't think that's real. I think that is really, unhealthy to aspire to some form of work-life balance that just quite frankly is no longer relevant and no longer possible, just given that our lives are so tech-based and so tech involved. And so I like to more kind of talk about work-life harmony. I think that when we can create a harmony between ourselves and our work, ourselves and our screen use, ourselves and whatever it is that we're doing online, that's where I think the value comes from, is being able to create some harmony in that, which means that it looks different every single day, right? It looks different based on the work that we're doing. It looks different based on the phase or cycle. Maybe it's different based on the project that we're involved in at the moment, or different based on kind of what we're just sort of sinking into. And so for me, that looks like giving myself permission to show up online how I need to show up in that day, but then also in that week and in that month and in that cycle of whatever I'm working on or involved in. For example, I was just talking with you about this. This summer, I have taken a reduced practice, very happily reduced practice, with a lot of the kids who I work with. They are on summer vacations, they're at camps, they're on trips, and they're out enjoying their summer. And I'm loving that for them. And I'm loving the reduced load for me. So that means that I have permission, right, to kind of peel away from the work. And I think that is true when mapped on to our tech use. I think giving ourselves permission first and foremost to take a break and not punish ourselves for not being there and not being present and not feeling that FOMO of like missing out. I think that that's part of the harmony.
Oh my gosh, I love that too. It's so, I love what you're saying, because it's almost like giving permission to like have to be online and being okay with that, and just like being present with yourself every single day around like, it's all right, because this is not something that we're not supposed to be doing anymore. It actually is the new world basically that we're living. I like that a lot, because I mean, I feel guilty about it. I like beat myself up, like the scrolling or the checking another email before bed to make sure I've gotten all the customers, like I beat myself up for being so like obsessed with it in a way. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. The language that I use with kids is about their use. So is your use healthy, and could it be considered overuse? And I think that when it is overuse, you know exactly when it is you've overused the screen, right? You feel groggy, you feel grouchy, you feel tired, you feel disconnected, you feel like angry at yourself, you feel angry and annoyed at other people who you're watching and looking at. Like the signs are there. I think what we're talking about is navigating that with mindfulness and navigating that with a certain presence and honesty that allows ourselves to be like, oh yeah, I need to take a step away so that I can come back as my full self or my best self.
I love that. Even noticing relationship issues because of it. I mean, that's a huge relationship problem. In my relationship, it's like, he's basically retired. We're like basically traveling to all these cool places. He's like, really? You're answering another email right now? Like, we're supposed to be going into Yosemite right now, like, wait, let me get this last second of Wi-Fi, you know? So yeah, problematic use. That's a really good way to look at it.
So get
Like
this,
it's,
Kim. The
yeah.
Institute for Family Studies, the other IFS that we know of in our field, they recently just put out a report and said that they found, this is proven by research, that the phone is a major contributor to divorce and separation in today's
Oh my God.
times.
I believe it. I mean, how many times you go to a restaurant and there's couples sitting across from each other and they're both just scrolling like zombies on their phone, you know?
It's become another body part, right? Our phones
Mhm.
have become another body part. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's become the third and fourth person in our relationships. It's right in between us, right? And that's the crisis of connection that I reference, right? Is that we're
Yeah.
connecting to that rather than connecting with each other and being present in our lives. And I think that is the crisis element of that, which is that we're a social species. We need to be connected and tapped into people, real people around us, so that we can co-regulate with them and be available and have our nervous system be online with each other. Otherwise, we
Yes.
feel like crap, right? We feel lonely, we feel disconnected, we just feel not ourselves. And it's
Mhm.
because the phone won't love you back. The phone isn't going to love you back.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm glad you said co-regulating because I just saw your Substack or your blog that you put out about co-regulating this week. And I was like, this is such an important topic. So can we talk about co-regulation a little bit? Just like
Yeah,
how to like
let's do it.
intentionally be connected to your real life people and not the people that you're online with. Because sometimes, you know, I find that I'll go share something with my buddies online before I even share with my partner, you know, and it's like, I don't know, there's something not right with that. So I just would love to just talk about this co-regulation because I found what you wrote really interesting. So would you talk about that a little bit? Like, how do we get back to that place with our partners and family and friends that are right here with us physically, you know?
Yeah, I love the question, and I just think it's such a big problem that we are going to have to sort of sort through and sift through over the next few years in order to really get it right. And I
Mm.
worry that kids are losing that as an essential component of being a person, right? Is
Oh my
being
gosh.
able to be
Yes.
present with each other and be present here without phone and, quite frankly, make eye contact. There was another study that was done that showed that like
Oh,
significant levels of eye contact are being reduced through our screen and phone use when compared to, let's say, the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, less and less eye
wow.
contact by parents to child. And it is resulting
Oh,
in so like just that feeling of safety, right? Just even in your home, that sense of like people around me understand me, they see me, they know me, they get me.
hmm,
That's that co-regulation piece, right? Is I feel safe with other people around me because their nervous systems are calm. So my nervous system feels calm in their presence. And so
yes.
we're born with a need for dependence. So we need someone else's nervous system in order to help us feel calm at birth. And so that's
Mm.
called external regulation. We need another person's nervous system to help us feel calm. Then we move in infancy, we move to co-regulation, where we can start to do it ourselves and feel what it feels like because of that external presence. And so
Mm.
co-regulation is being able to tap into someone else's nervous system to help my nervous system become calm. Then beyond that, we move into self-regulation. We
Hmm.
can only know how to self-regulate if we know what it has felt like inside. And so in that sense, co-regulation is a prerequisite for self-regulation. And so what I'm noticing
Wow.
is a major imbalance in just the ways in which we are able to co-regulate. We're able to
Mm.
notice opportunities for regulation with somebody else because this darn phone is in the way. And so we're actually using the
Wow.
phone as as a mediator for the regulation that we feel. But the phone won't love you back. So hello distress, hello like signals of I'm not safe right now because
Oh
the
my
phone is not
gosh.
a reliable predictive place for co-regulation to occur. And so you never know what
Wow.
you're going to get on the phone, right? Sorry, I know
Oh
that
my
was a
gosh.
I know that was a
No,
co-regulation monologue.
no, I love it because it makes me think. I mean, even this generation of parents, right? Like with their young children, it used to be I'm on the floor playing with you, but now how many parents do you see are scrolling while the kid's swinging at the playground or, you know, so even that like safety and co-regulation isn't happening as much, you know. So just hearing you say that, I'm like, yeah, and it's like I keep saying epidemic, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it's trickling down, you know,
Oh
like even
yes.
infancy, there's no like the bonding is interrupted with that, with the parents like this.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
I
looking at
I
their phone.
I saw the scariest reel the other day, this video of this baby laying on the floor with a magazine, and the baby is swiping at the magazine as if it's an iPad. And I just saw that. It was like, my heart broke. I was like, oh my gosh, this little baby, this tiny, tiny human thinks that the purpose of that book is to swipe and to move it to the next one. I'm like,
Oh my God.
what are we training our species to do?
That is scary. Instead of parents reading books and doing this at night, they're like swiping, they're putting them in front of an iPad that they just swipe and tell them to watch. I mean, it's like crazy.
And so
Oh my gosh.
if we zoom out from that for a second, if we look at kind of, the nature versus nurture debate, I like to introduce a thing that is complicating our development. So we need, of course, our nature, which is our biology. And just as a side note, for those who haven't figured it out yet, I'm like a super science nerd. I'm like super into the science. So this is about to get even more sciencey for those playing.
Yeah, I love it.
So our nature versus nurture. Long in psychology, there was this debate between, is it nature or nurture that develops the child? And it turns out after 100 years of research, like, we know that it's both. It's our nature, our biology, and then our nurture, which is our social relationships. And right now, I think that we're adding a third one, which is not nature, not nurture, but the numerics, which are algorithms. All the technology around us is reshaping child development. And I think that my prediction is that it's going to have pretty drastic impacts on how the nervous system how we can expect the nervous system to develop from there.
So interesting. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so interesting because even, I'm even thinking of it from like an addictions perspective, because I think we had talked about that on the boat that day, drinking our tequila, but we had talked about how, they do this to make you addicted. They do give you dopamine hits on a regular interval to help you like feel like you have to be going back to this device constantly for another dopamine hit, basically. And then it disrupts your pleasure center of your brain. And, once your pleasure threshold is increased, the brain can't register normal pleasures like eye contact with your mother or whatever, you know what I mean, when you're even young. So it's like, it's pushing the pleasure threshold up. So talking about algorithms, it's like, what's even going to be pleasurable? To people where it used to be like, hey, my mom kicks us out of the house at 9 a.m. and says, don't come back till 5, play outside in the woods. Like that was good enough for us. But now these, the kids that are coming up and it's going to get worse and worse, I think, with these dopamine hits and the pleasure centers. And it's like, how do you even bring it back down? Or can you? Like you're saying, there's like this third variable now. It's like this other algorithm, it's the algorithm. I don't know. Yeah. That was a tangent there as an addictions therapist, but yeah, it's like disturbing because I know it for myself, like the hits.
Yes. Oh yeah. Talk about like stressed, depressed, and lonely. And we wonder like why kids are feeling that at astronomical levels right now. And it's because they've attached themselves to their phone and not to each other. And this is the trend that I'm sort of seeing right now, is that a lot of high schoolers are acting as if they're in middle school. And at first I kind of thought, oh, this is the pandemic. This is rusty social skills happening. But I think across the board, what the pandemic did is it really shifted our technology use. It actually doubled screen time use around adolescence. Wow. And went from 4 hours a day to 8 hours a day on average. And it has, again, shifted the way that we use technology. And so when that is the case, we get to this place where we're acting as if we're constantly in middle school. I really do think that this is what happens even with adults. It brings us all back to a middle school where we feel so comparing. We feel so despair. We feel despair when we don't measure up or we don't, fit in or get in with the trend or know what to do around the certain thing and know what to think around the certain political issue. And it takes us back to middle school developmentally.
That's so interesting. And again, from a addictions perspective, when they finally, as adults, get to us in rehab, it's so interesting because we do say like your development stops when the addiction started. So if you started using in 8th grade, like socially and all that, you're functioning sort of on that emotional level, so to hear you say that, it's like, yeah, same thing happening here. If you're getting stunted in where you're supposed to have all this social development, you probably are getting stunted more in that age or emotionally in that age range, with being able to function as an emotionally intelligent adult. you know?
You're so
Yeah.
right. I love that analogy too, comparing it to the addiction, because I do think in many ways the screen use is, of course, addiction, screen addiction,
Right.
and not just use or dependency, but in fact addiction. Like, and so I think that when we look at young kids, like little people, tiny humans
Mm.
addicted at that level, like that is,
Gosh.
and that's why I refer to these in many ways as digital drugs. And I think that they really are,
Mm.
it's a form of, yeah, that dopamine, like dopamine doesn't discriminate in that way. It doesn't know whether it's sugar or whether it's, a funny video on TikTok times 10, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm thinking about my nephew. I saw my nephew this weekend and he's 6. He's like, he called me Kimmy. He's like, Kimmy, record me. I'm going to make a YouTube video. And he's like in this, I'm laughing, but I'm also thinking this is like messed up because this 6-year-old, he's like, hit like, subscribe. This is going to go viral, Kimmy. And he's like saying all this stuff to me. And I'm like, it's cute, but not really, because how much YouTube must he be watching to like,
Managing a successful private practice can be challenging, even if you have all the skills and experience you need to support clients. Most training programs offer little to no guidance on running your own business. That's why Alma gives clinicians the tools they need to build a thriving private practice. When you join Alma, you can get credentialed with major insurance payers within 45 days, as well as guaranteed payment within 2 weeks of each session. You can also attract clients who are the right fit for your practice with a free profile in Alma's searchable directory. As you build your caseload, Alma also offers time-saving tools and administrative support, so you can spend less time on paperwork and more time delivering great care to your clients. Visit helloalma.com/Kim to download your free guide to identifying and connecting with clients who are the right fit for your practice. That's helloalma.com/KYM to get your guide.
oh, we want likes. We want people to subscribe. We want this to go viral. Like he's like obsessed with that.
Like repeating the lines, right?
Yes.
Like scripting himself.
I was like, this is not good.
Well, on that note, I do think
Yeah.
that in many ways, social media, the other detrimental effect is that we're also training kids to be their own brand, like a little mini news
Oh my gosh.
caster, right? Like someone that kind of always has to have a hot take, an opinion, someone who has to show up like gorgeously or flawlessly with a filter or with a this or with a that. It just is so overwhelming. And the thing that overwhelms me the most is just the age and stage, right? Like for young brains to be able to process and understand what that is quite startling. And so giving like a little
Scary.
girl a smartphone in middle school for someone to like and comment and rate, how she shows up in the world, that is concerning to me. That concerns me.
Yeah, it does. Me too. Oh my gosh. So what do we do?
Yeah. So
what do we do? Like, how do we, even as an adult that's traveling and supposed to be living this glamorous life, half of my time is spent with my head down in a computer. Like, how do we break the dopamine addiction and put the stuff down and like live a real life, like, what do you think?
So number one, I want to reassure people. I'm not just here to scare people. I'm not just here to raise the temperature and then walk away and be like, well, you're on your own. This is a big part of my practice. And in my work with families and young people, I am working with them every single day about what are some alternatives and what are ways off of this hell of a roller coaster. And I think there are many different solutions, and it sort of depends on sort of what people are struggling with. The land of kind of, I can't put down my phone and I really struggle to kind of peel away from it. I think that giving people the reassurance that, again, these things are meant to be addictive.
Right.
This is the device doing its job. And so when we actually look at it through the addiction paradigm, as you're talking about, I think that really is the way forward here. And so I have some really quick tips and some quick hits if you're interested.
Okay.
Number one, for those at home, actually, if you have an iPhone, if you go to the gear settings on your phone, you can go. So go to the gear. That's the settings on your iPhone. And then type in at the top in the pull down section, you can type in color filters. And in color filters, you can actually turn color filters on or off. And when you turn
Oh,
color filters on, it turns your phone into grayscale mode. And so it's completely just fully grayscale, takes the
ooh,
color right out of your entire phone. So this is, of course, an accessibility feature, but this is something that I suggest all the young people that I work with turn on, especially when they're studying or when they're in periods of, I feel like my phone is just giving me way too much dopamine. This is going to take a lot of the dopamine right out of your phone. And so this is going to
wow.
make the experience of being on your phone a lot less attractive and a lot less fun. So now, Kim, just because
Love it.
I saw you just do it. If you go into like Instagram, for example, or
Hmm.
Facebook, an app that
Yeah.
you use often, now go in
Yeah.
and scroll through that app and look at what that experience is like for you. It's not so fun. It's not so exciting. It's not so
Wow.
attractive. And the reason is because it has taken out a lot of the marketing colors, right? It's taken out marketing red, marketing blue,
Yes.
marketing yellow. And this is a fun little experiment. But if you go the whole day in
Yeah.
grayscale, at the end of the day, turn color filters back on, your eyes will be assaulted with the brightness of the colors. You will not,
Oh my God.
I promise you will not believe how bright those colors actually are, and therefore how desensitized our eyes and our dopamine system actually is to just the Vegas style, slot machine style colors that are in our phone day to day.
That is so intense because even like on my homepage, of course, I've got all the most important apps with all the notification numbers, right? So there's like 23, like the number red 23, it just glaring at you like, oh, it's like an alarm. You have to click it. So even with this grayscale mode, I can't even see the colors, like that
Exactly.
bright notification. I love that.
And so a lot of the research says that,
Oh my God.
our eyes actually just go to the color. Rather, we don't actually do any reading when we're clicking into an app. So it becomes actually quite automatic. We just look for the yellow one, the red one, the blue one, whatever it is, and then we go and click that one. And so
Yeah.
again, it becomes so automatic. And so in grayscale, your brain actually has to do the work of saying, okay, I'm looking for the picture and the title of the app so that I have to go and open. So automatically it already makes it a more mindful experience when you're moving towards the app and noticing how
Yeah.
automatic some of our behavior can become, right? When we're just going to click the red notification button, let's
Oh
say.
my God. That is awesome.
And so
I love that.
I recommend all the families I work with turning grayscale on, especially during periods of high work time or high study time, or you need to get down and do something. This is one of the ways that you can just automatically take and remove a ton of the dopamine out. And so if you go to kind of
Wow.
the next stage of that and you open up one of the scrolling apps like Instagram or TikTok, it makes TikTok just the most boring app you've ever experienced in
Yeah.
your life. You're like, what is this? I don't care about any of this anymore. You can't, I
Wow.
promise you can't spend more than a minute or two on there because it actually
It's
starts
so
to hurt.
boring.
It hurts your eyes because it's
Yeah.
so newspapery, right? It's such a, yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, I'm doing it right now. It's like super boring. It just looks like faces and words.
And unfortunately, this is again how these apps hook us in.
Yeah.
And so that's the place I like to start, which is that, these apps are designed this way. And so we shouldn't be so shocked that we become so addicted when they're designed to be addicting.
Yeah.
And so instead of, shaming and blaming kids or blaming ourselves even for like getting hooked on them, like we should actually just replace that with compassion, which is that like, oh yeah, okay, I fell into the marketing tricks. I fell into the algorithm. I fell down that rabbit hole. Yep, okay, it's designed to be addictive. There must have been something about my situation or that moment that I really needed to kind of check out, escape, numb, whatever, what have you. And so I would say that this only starts to become a problem. And again, for those specializing in addiction, you won't be so shocked by this. The
Hmm.
only time that I would say that this actually becomes an issue or something that I, as a clinician, am concerned about is if it's starting to impact other areas of your life or starting to erode your relationships, let's say, or
Right.
it's changing very significant patterns in your routine or in who you are. And so the one to look out for is changing the patterns in who you are. I've noticed some very significant personality shifts when
Wow.
we are overusing our screens. And that
Oh,
is,
that's interesting.
yeah, that are things like irritability, things like really significant changes in mood. So therefore, like the time of the day that you're using your screens are just really, really important here. And another key one to watch out for is how it's impacting your sleep.
Mm. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm guilty.
And
Yeah.
so for
Uh-huh.
the kids who are completely addicted and completely
Hmm.
tapped into these things, the number one protocol and the only one that I've seen work here is actually just 30 days of no screens. So putting a
Oh,
moratorium.
wow.
Yep, full
Detox.
30-day detox. So dopamine detox, we turn it up to 100, and we start at that place with the kids who really significantly cannot peel away from their screens. And that's the only thing that I've seen work. And I think that
Wow.
just speaks to how addicting they are, right? That
Oh my
how
gosh.
which and because they have addictive components, that means that there are withdrawal effects, right? That not being on your
Exactly.
screen is actually more uncomfortable than being on your screen.
Exactly. I was just going through like the detox protocol and all the withdrawal symptoms that you have to look out for. And I'm thinking through my mind, it's like, yeah, probably every one of those, except for maybe physical withdrawal. But I mean, you could get mad enough that you're having even physical, or anxious enough that you're having physical reactions from the detox, like so worried you can't get in and connect and see what's happening, and could cause a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
That's it. And then picture the parent who is none the wiser. Like, and I fully understand why, right? They see those big behaviors, they see the withdrawal effects, and they go, okay, let's give it back to them. We have to start over. Let's give them their screen back. Like, obviously this is really hard. It's just too uncomfortable for them. But unfortunately, that is not the path, right? That is not the solution here. And so in those moments, like, it really is, especially for kids that are really, really hooked, like, parents are in for like a week or two of just really significant behaviors, and then really significant levels of anxiety and stress that is,
Yeah.
quite frankly, unsoothed, right?
Yeah. And how would they know how to soothe themselves anyway?
That's
Right.
it. That's right.
Like a
And
whole like skill building around that once you're doing the detox. Yeah. It's like, what do I even do with myself? Yeah.
And so in our field, like, we don't have a lot of screen protocols, right? For things like screen addiction, screen dependency, or even screen overuse. And so that's where I think that it's just so uncharted. And that's why I personally that's why I draw on the addiction paradigm, right? And the addiction research. And then, of course, all my tools and strategies from addiction framework, right? In order to honor actually how attached and dependent kids actually are to these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's hard because, like, in true addiction treatment, right, you just remove the substance completely and it's complete and total abstinence forever. Because as soon as you reintroduce it, if you're truly addicted, you're going to be back eventually using it at the same level. So, it's interesting with this. And, even with food addiction, it's interesting once you try to like change the behavior, you have to really have a really strong relapse prevention plan in place afterwards.
Yes.
To maintain the detox, so to speak,
Which is why that sort of concept of balance, I think, can be so difficult and harmful in this conversation around screen use, because I don't know that there's any balance to strike. I actually don't think that it's possible to be like, okay, I'm only going to use it for 1 hour, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm doing my work. The reality is, like, the generations that are up and coming, specifically Gen Z, and I know this will be true for Generation Alpha, which is the generation that comes after them, is they are on their phones while they're working. They are right in it, right? So and that is called screen doubling, right? They're watching the show while also on their phone. They're watching the YouTube video while also they're playing the game while also on their phone. They're doing their homework while also on their phone. And so this is just a reality of the ways that these screens have hooked us. And and that's why I think starting with you need like a screen life balance situation happening for yourself. I don't think that's really the conversation that we need to have, because it just suggests that our nervous systems are a lot stronger than they are. We're in for a lot of pain and discomfort if we promise people that it's that simple. And so therefore I do think that it becomes that clinical issue, right? Where it's a treatable thing if you're so dependent and reliant on your phone that it's,
interesting,
causing problems in your life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So interesting. I'm just wondering, like, how many people will be listening to this and be like, that's me. Because I know I am. I mean, screen doubling. Yeah. Screen tripling. I do.
Yes.
Sometimes. I'm writing this while I've got Bravo on and, doing, answering an email over here. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
It is.
Right.
And I think that, again, the way that I sort of look at an algorithm actually is that it is designed to mimic our nervous system. It's designed, the reason why it works so brilliantly well is that it mimics our nervous system. It turns on and turns off our stress at the blink of an eye and on demand. It can easily hook us into an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour stint of just being kind of on loop and just being on repeat. And so
Gosh.
I
Yes.
I don't want to, come onto this come
Mhm.
into this conversation and suggest that I'm like this wizard that has it nailed down myself.
Oh, sure.
I will also be the first to say that my screen use is not good. It is not good. It's not where I want it to
Mhm.
be. And what I will also say is that I've worked really hard at getting my screen time down. I
Nice.
so if you go into your phone in the settings app, you
Mhm.
can actually look at your screen analytics. And here's the one that I would turn people's attention to. So if you go to your
Okay.
settings and
Mhm.
then you type in screen time at the top,
Mhm. Oh
you can
gosh.
see all your analytics there. And so you
Oh
can
my
see your,
God.
your daily average. Then there's a ton of great features here. You can set app limits. You can actually schedule yourself in for downtime. So if that is your speed, if that's what you need, then the phone itself can actually help you do some of this moderation and some of the boundary setting for you.
Wow.
If you click into see all activity at the top,
Mhm.
and you can actually scroll down and see which apps you use at what times during the day, which I think is really amazing and incredible.
Oh
Then
my
if you
gosh.
scroll down, this is the section I want to turn people's attention to. You can actually go into pickups and you can look throughout the week at the amount
Oh
of
my
times you've
God.
picked up your phone in that day.
Oh my God.
And
Mine's bad, Jake.
this is the metric that I would turn people's
Yeah.
attention to. I think we may assume that, the hours that were on our screen is where we want to turn our focus, but I would actually say that the only way that as a clinician I'm concerned about screen time is if
Mhm.
it is passive and antisocial use. So if it's like
Mm.
passive solo use by yourself and antisocial, meaning like I'm not connecting to anyone, I'm just by myself doing my thing. And so
Mm.
active
Interesting.
prosocial use is really positive, right? That means you're connecting with people. It means you're, scheduling dates with people, you're talking with people, you're sharing videos with people. So that's what I would put in the category of active prosocial use. The iPhone in its screen time metrics can't capture that level of nuance. And so I
Mm.
don't think it's as reliable as giving us the data that we need. But I do think, however,
Mm.
the pickups option gives us a ton of data about the dopamine. It gives us
It
a
sure
ton of
does.
data about how many times per day do I feel that pull to pick up my phone. And so,
Gosh.
yeah, and it also tells you where you go when you pick up your phone. So it'll tell you
Yeah.
what app you use first after you pick it up. And so I think that is all really important and relevant data when it comes
Wow.
to the type of screen dependence that we fall into, right? And so for you, you may actually just decide, oh, it's actually one app that I want to target. I want to just not go to that app first. I want to try
Yeah.
to see how that feels for myself. If I don't just meet that dopamine kind of need, which is I have to go to this place on Facebook or I have to go to this place on Instagram. And so when you just
Mhm.
interrupt that cycle, and if you have to pick up your phone, fine. But then if you go to a different app first and then really see if you still need to go to Instagram or Facebook or what your email, whatever it is, that could be helpful. But I have seen a ton of people
Yeah.
really answering that urge to just pick up their phone because they feel like
Y-
they have
Yeah.
to.
I do it all the time. Just sitting there, I just look at my phone. It's like,
Right.
why am I even looking at my phone?
Mm-hmm.
But this is so interesting. For example, my third one is Insight Timer, so a meditation app. It's the third one down. So I'm like, well, that's not so bad.
No,
But I'm
look
just
at you
like,
go, Kim. That's
I
incredible.
know that's pretty
That's
cool, right?
actually great. Yeah.
But I'm noticing just even looking at it, I feel shame or something like I'm bad, like all these 181 pickups today. I mean, I've been on this computer all day, so how's that even possible? But just thinking about what you said earlier, like let's not categorize it as good and bad, really. Let's just normalize it and just pay attention to what we're seeing and make choices around it. I mean, I really like that.
That's it. That
Yeah.
that that is the way. I think that really has to be the metric that we use, which is just to say like, okay, 181 pickups. Okay, either that meant that it was a stressful day, or it was just a heavy tech day because of work, or it means that I needed, XYZ from my phone in this capacity, right? I think often when we assign meanings and interpret all the extra stuff that gets
Yeah.
attached to it, that's I think where we start to feel that shame and we get caught up in the spiral of all of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that, if you, so for me, I have just an agreement with myself. If I get
Hmm.
over 100 pickups in a day, and usually I check around dinner time, if I'm
Yeah.
over 100 pickups in a day, then I automatically then I'm going for a walk after dinner.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. So you're not bad or anything like that. It's like, okay, that means I need to regulate with something healthy that's not tech related and
That's right.
get some balance going for me, whatever that means for me. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. And
Nice.
I do kind of think about it similar to, like, because I was referring to it as a digital drug, like I think that a lot of the apps, especially the most addictive ones, I treat those like dessert. Those are things that in
Mm.
moderation from time to time, it's fine. Like, whatever. Okay. I spent, 2 hours on Instagram, at that one time. Okay, whatever. But if I notice, like, oh, I'm really tapping into the sugar here, I'm really tapping into this digital drug, that to me is a sign that I need to step away from the device, not from a place of shame, but from a
Mm-hmm.
place of concern for self and from a place of,
Mm.
right, okay, I need to take a closer look at this thing. And so, similar to that dopamine detox that I was referring to, I have, even just with myself, have set some strict boundaries with, like, tech-free Tuesday, tech-free Saturday,
Oh,
taking
nice.
taking a day off, right? So that's sort of the harmony that I was talking about, which is that I hope it all sort of comes out in the wash is really my goal here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Just those tips alone is going to help me so much. And I hope it does for other people that are listening, for them and for their kids that they're raising, to help give some ideas on how to combat this even a little bit,
And listen,
or
Kim, there are no simple solutions to complex problems, which means
yeah.
that it's just, we have to take it all in stride. And
Yeah.
these strategies are so easy to talk about and so much harder to implement. So I think that
Yeah.
compassion piece is just really, really important here.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. Love it. Well, I realized that I didn't even really introduce you. I just said you
We
were a
just got to
speaker
talking.
and we drank tequila and we hung out on a catamaran, but
I know we should have had some tequila with us during this
we should
conversation.
have. Oh my God, we need to have a happy hour.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So would you mind just telling everybody about you and who you are and how to get in contact with you if they want to work with you in some capacity or learn from you? Because you have an excellent Instagram, talking about social media, but his is one that you really should go to and pay attention to.
Thank you, Kim. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much. My Instagram is at MSWJake, and that's the place online where I post all my thoughts and kind of wonderings about this wild, crazy internet life that we're all kind of swimming in. And I write about relationships, I write about stress, I write about how to be a better human, really is kind of my whole thing. I also write in my newsletter on Substack as well. And you can find that in the link in my bios, on any of my pages on Facebook, Instagram, any of that kind of stuff. So do a ton of speaking. I love jamming about science and about technology, and particularly how technology impacts our well-being. And it's a space that I play around in a lot. So get in touch.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much for coming in and just talking about this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Kim. It was great to see you and great to chat.
You too. Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you loved this episode, please leave a review.